Hi, I'm Eric Samuelson. Recently, my friend and colleague Dave Anderson mentioned that hiring is the single most crucial component of all the leadership and management topics he's encountered. The reason? Hiring is the gateway to a productive and pleasant work environment. Hire well and your business benefits tremendously. But some leaders are still using failed, out-of-date methods to select people, putting a tax on their managers and losing business. They experience excessive turnover, which is costly in dollars and morale. Several serious consequences can arise if we don't hire people wisely. Or worse, I've known executives who will compromise their standards to avoid the pain of firing someone. Either way, we look weak and the bottom line is severely affected. No one can afford to continue to operate like that in the current business environment. And yes, there is a better way. After spending years assisting managers and business leaders from Barbados to Canada with their recruiting decisions, I created the Confident Hiring Solution, an internet-based systematic approach which strengthens the probability of filling open jobs by selecting the best available candidate. First, we need to filter out the people who can't follow directions or provide certain documents you request. Then, we eliminate those candidates who give unsuitable responses during a short knockout interview. If you're interested, we can talk about the details of the Confident Hiring Solution at a later time. For now, I'd like to describe the centerpiece, which is the Anderson Profile. This is a professional, objective assessment of the stranger who wants to come work with you. Here's an example. We've divided Linda's personality into 4 major groups. The interpersonal traits tell us how she'll get along with people, including customers, co-workers, and managers. The organizational traits describe how she handles tasks and responsibilities. Dedication traits measure commitments such as ambition, perseverance, and the willingness to be trained. Finally, self-control traits examine emotional maturity, the ability to handle stress, and to bounce back from adversity. The bar graph next to each trait tells us the strength of this trait in this person. The colorful boxes represent the requirements of the job. We compare the person to the requirements of the job in order to be certain that Linda is the right fit for the position. We can go into greater details on a personal phone call later on. See if you agree with this thought. Hiring is simply an attempt to predict how a stranger will behave once they have the job. How's this guy going to act if I give him this position? Or is she going to treat my customers the way I would? Or are we going to have conflict? We all pretty much want the same qualities in people. Someone who fits well into our culture, has a good capacity to learn, gets along well with others, and of course performs their duties with a degree of excellence. But I like to add self-managed to that list. A self-managed person quickly learns the ropes and acts accordingly. He or she doesn't require a lot of oversight from a supervisor. A productive, low-maintenance person like that makes a fabulous addition to the team. Let me tell you a true story. One day I received a call from an office manager at an auto dealership out west. He had just purchased some profiles the day before and had used the system for the very first time. This is the profile of his first sales candidate. We call him Ronnie the roommate. Even if this is your first time glancing at our profiles, you might see certain problems already. I congratulated the client because we had stopped a disaster before it happened. He said, "I know that, and you know that, but my sales manager's already hired the guy." I replied, I said, "Bring them together in your conference room this afternoon, and I will review the results with them over the phone." That afternoon, the conversation went something like this. "You guys don't know me, but I'm the one who administers this profile. I just want to take a minute to tell you what Ronnie has said about himself on this report. He's cold and distant and undemonstrative. Ronnie is rigid, unimaginative, somewhat defensive. His idea of goal setting is to ask, 'Hey, where are we going for lunch?' He's got no perseverance, has no desire to influence people to buy from him, and he doesn't listen well to managers. Finally, his confidence is shattered. He's temperamental, thin-skinned, highly independent, and pessimistic." Now, guys, how well does all that line up with what you're looking for in a salesman? Well, there was deathly silence. Finally, one brave soul said, "But he comes highly recommended." "Okay, by who?" "Well, by one of our top guys." "Well, great, that counts for something. Did they work together before?" "No." "Well, how does your top guy know Ronnie?" "They're roommates." "Okay, where does Ronnie the roommate work now?" "Well, he's not working right now." I said, "Let me see if I have this straight. Your top-notch sales guy has a slacker roommate who's unemployed, can't pay the rent, and is laying around the apartment all day probably playing video games. He wants Ronnie to work for you so he can keep an eye on him and to be sure Ronnie's got money to pay the rent. Is that about right? Listen, guys, this is not about Ronnie. It's about you. What are you really looking for in a sales consultant? What are your standards? Now, if you're like me, you may wonder, hey, what's to stop a guy from just telling us what he wants us to hear in his profile? Well, we have two filters in our assessment to detect when someone is faking his answers: accuracy and objectivity. We refuse to print a fictitious report. If the candidate's assessment is invalid, he's required to take it again. There's absolutely no additional charge of any kind to anybody. Requiring someone to take the profile again should not be viewed as a nuisance, but rather as an example of our integrity. Listen, we take great pride in keeping the bad guys out of your organization using our unique tools and systems. Not only is the Anderson profile useful in hiring, but many business leaders also find it useful to assess existing team members as well. Doing so provides valuable insight into solving little conflicts before they get out of hand. There are several applications for this assessment, so the Anderson profile is a terrific management tool as well. Well, that's as much as I can go into in this short message. If you'd like to start hiring and managing with greater confidence, give me a call at the number on your screen. Just ask for me personally. Mention that you saw this video, and I will personally walk you through our process. Thank you for your kind attention.